And guys, today's like goal is 5,500 likes. Please smash that like button and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Your likes and subscriptions are all I need to keep bringing you these epic videos. Let's hit that goal together, folks. Now, let's dive right back into the story. After that, we are shown a flashback from 10 minutes ago. Oren, with Iona sitting on his lap, confidently calls for Hegel. He was so sure that Hegel would step out and kill Theo and everyone else. But even after a long wait, Hegel doesn't show up. Seeing this, Oren is absolutely shocked. He couldn't wrap his head around why Hegel wasn't coming out. Frustration started to build up. Oren got upset and began yelling for Hegel, demanding an answer. Why wasn't he coming out? Oren thought he had the perfect plan. He had Iona, the one person who could keep Theo and his gang in check. This was the perfect time for Hegel to step in and teach everyone a lesson, to end them all. But even after 5 long minutes, Hegel stayed hidden. Then, we are shown Hegel quietly observing everything from the window of the mansion. He wasn't moving, wasn't saying a word. He just watched, and we all know what's coming next. Inside the mansion, Hegel was visibly upset. As soon as his eyes landed on Iona, he froze. His shock was undeniable. Hegel knew who Iona was. This wasn't just anyone, this was Iona, the one who could destroy the entire Granny village with a mere snap of her fingers. And this idiot Oren had captured her? Was this for real? Oren's father, noticing his son's desperation, turned to Hegel. He asked why Hegel wasn't going out. Oren was calling him repeatedly, wasn't he? But then, the father noticed something even worse. His dumbass son, yes, his words, had Iona on his lap as a hostage. A hostage. This had to be a joke, right? No, it was real. Hegel, realizing the magnitude of this stupidity, grabbed his head in pure panic. He screamed, knowing that now his entire family was doomed. As time passed, Hegel watched helplessly as Oren continued to provoke Iona. Every second, her anger grew. Hegel's face turned pale. His fear rooted him in place. He couldn't even move. Then, just to make matters worse, Oren loudly declared that Hegel would step out and teach Iona a lesson, that he would kill her. Hearing this, Hegel's anxiety hit a boiling point. His condition worsened. He was in sheer terror. Because here's the thing, Hegel didn't just know Iona, he worked under Iona. She was his boss. And then, it happened. Iona's patience snapped. She broke free from Oren's grasp using a paralyzing spell. Her eyes glowed an intense purple as she rose, her fury on full display. With her magic wand in hand, she turned toward Oren. She wasn't going to let him off that easily. She looked toward the mansion and called out for Hegel, her voice dripping with rage. She declared that she knew he was inside. She could sense him. If Hegel didn't come out before she finished her countdown, she promised to burn the entire mansion to ashes. But before Iona could even begin counting, Hegel burst out of the mansion like his life depended on it. It was almost as if he had achieved some ultra-instinct-level reaction. He landed in front of Iona, immediately dropping to his knees. He didn't even hesitate. Outside, the Silver Wolf Chief, Elka, watched in shock. He recognized Hegel. Even Theo noticed Elka's surprise and turned to him. Theo wanted to know if Elka knew who Hegel was. Elka explained that Hegel wasn't just any mercenary. He was a legendary high-rank mercenary, far more skilled than Elka himself. His reputation was huge. But even Elka couldn't understand why someone of Hegel's level was on such a low-level floor, or what his connection to Iona was. Back in the scene, Hegel remained on the ground, his head bowed. In the most polite tone, he apologized to Iona. He humbly greeted her, clearly terrified. But Iona wasn't letting it go. Still furious, she pointed a finger at Oren and demanded answers. She wanted Hegel to explain himself. What was this situation about? Did Hegel really plan to kill her? Was he going to turn against his boss because of some black, stupid cat? Hegel couldn't even form words. His face was drenched in sweat. He stammered, trying to deny any ill intent. He swore he couldn't even dream of hurting Iona. He blamed the black cat, claiming Oren had lied to him. Oren had manipulated him, saying the group outside was disrespecting the great black dragon. That was why Hegel had threatened to kill them. Theo, hearing all this, was stunned. He pieced it all together. This was why Iona had come to Granny Village. She was here to check on her employee. Meanwhile, Oren's father came running out, eager to introduce himself to Iona. But before he could even utter a word, Iona, irritated beyond belief, cast her paralytic spell on him. He froze on the spot, unable to say or do anything. Iona was at her limit. Her frustration, fury, and annoyance were written all over her face. She declared that the noise was too much and that Israel needed to stay quiet until she was done. Then she turned her focus back to Hegel. She was still angry. In her rage, she demanded an explanation. She reminded Hegel of the mission she had given him, a mission that was now a failure. Hegel, still bowing, admitted his mistake. Their task had been to kill all the frogs in Granny Village's lake, but they had failed. Hearing this, Theo's eyes widened in shock. He shouted, realizing these were the same frogs responsible for Granny Village's dire state. Iona confirmed it. She explained how unusual negative energy had been detected from the lake. The magic tower was too busy dealing with another crisis to handle it, so she had sent Hegel. His job was simple: destroy the Frog Queen's eggs before they hatched. But he had failed. Bowing his head low, he politely admits to Iona that they failed to complete their task. Their objective was simple: to eliminate all the frogs in the pond of Granny Village. Hearing this, Theo is stunned. His voice rises as he shouts, asking if these were the same frogs responsible for the village's misery. Iona, clearly irritated, begins explaining. A few days ago, the magic tower had detected an unusual and ominous negative energy emanating from the lake of Granny Village. However, due to the chaos caused by the Red Loctus incident, the magic tower was short-staffed and unable to handle the issue. That's why Iona had sent Hegel to investigate and resolve the problem. But Hegel had failed. Iona's voice turns sharp as she reveals the root of all these problems: a frog queen who had laid thousands of eggs in the lake. If those eggs were allowed to hatch unchecked, it could lead to a catastrophe akin to the Red Loctus incident. Hegel's mission was straightforward: destroy the eggs before they hatched. But he failed to accomplish even that. Fury overtakes Iona. Her anger is evident, and Hegel, overwhelmed with shame, remains silent. He bows his head and apologizes. Desperately, he tries to explain himself, repeating his excuses. Hegel stammers as he recounts how, by the time they reached Granny Village, it was too late. Hundreds of frogs had already hatched, and the Frog Queen was present. This was not what the data predicted. The Frog Queen wasn't supposed to be there. Facing the Queen and her offspring, even Hegel found it nearly impossible to fight alone. That's why he retreated to Israel's mansion to regroup and plan. But Iona is having none of it. Her patience is gone. She begins scolding Hegel, her voice filled with frustration and disdain. Hegel's excuses sound like utter nonsense to her. Iona's tone turns icy as she reminds Hegel of his simple job: to destroy the eggs before they hatched. That's all he had to do, but he failed. Hegel tries to reiterate that they reached as quickly as possible, but Iona cuts him off, her voice filled with disdain. She floats into the air, her anger manifesting into raw power. Within seconds, she summons a massive fireball. The deadly orb begins to grow, its heat intense. It starts to resemble a tiny burning sun, radiating energy so powerful that the entire Granny Village starts to feel its effects. The heat is unbearable. People begin to feel the burn from below. Iona's rage is palpable as she declares, Hegel's failure can only be punished by death. She continues to channel her power, growing the fireball even larger. The lava-like orb swells in size, becoming a colossal threat. Her anger turns toward the black cats as well. They will pay too, she declares, her voice echoing with fury. Elka and the others, seeing the growing danger, desperately try to stop Iona. Elka pleads with her, warning that the fireball is so deadly that its impact could destroy the entire village. But Iona is blinded by her anger. She won't listen. Theo, realizing the danger, steps forward, trying to reason with her. But his words fail to reach her. Desperate, Theo notices a small crack in Iona's magical barrier. With quick thinking, he decides to take action. He punches the crack hard, causing it to splinter further. Iona, oblivious, prepares to release her fireball. At that moment, Theo leaps onto Elka's shoulders, then onto Elka's head, propelling himself into the air. In a flash, Theo grabs onto Iona's wand, hanging precariously. His sudden action destabilizes Iona, who begins to scream in confusion. "What are you doing, Theo?" she demands. Theo, terrified, clings to the wand, shouting back that he's trying to stop her. He points out that if she releases the fireball, everyone, including herself, Hegel, the black cats, Elka, and even the entire village, will be in danger. Hearing this, Iona pauses. Her fury subsides, replaced by concern. "Do you think I would harm you, Theo?" she asks, her voice softening. Theo responds with honesty, admitting he's not afraid of falling. He's afraid of the fireball's destruction. Iona's face softens. She gently grabs Theo with her left hand and looks at the fireball. "I would never harm you," she says firmly. "You're a subordinate of the Black Dragon." With a snap of her fingers, the massive fireball begins to shrink. Slowly, it vanishes into nothingness. The sudden disappearance of the fireball causes a shockwave. The force of the blast rattles everyone nearby. Hegel stands frozen, his mouth wide open. He can't believe what he just witnessed. Iona, known for her short temper and relentless rage, had actually pulled back her attack. This had never happened before. When Iona decided to kill someone, not even the gods could stop her. But Theo, this small yellow cat, had done it. Hegel's gaze shifts to Iona's face. For the first time, he notices something strange. She's smiling. Iona, the cold and fierce wizard, was laughing. Carefully, she lowers Theo to the ground using her wand, treating him with gentleness Hegel had never seen before. As Hegel watches Iona talk and laugh with Theo, a thought crosses his mind. This yellow cat must truly be a subordinate of the great black dragon. Why else would Iona show him such respect? But deep down, Hegel remains oblivious to the truth. Iona secretly likes Theo. Meanwhile, Theo strolled over to the wolf chief, who seemed genuinely surprised when Theo had leapt over his head earlier. Theo, with his usual nonchalant tone, thanked the wolf chief for acting as a trampoline, saying that without it, he would have never reached Iona in time to stop her. He even joked that without the wolf's help, the 1,000 tower coins which Oren had snatched would have never been returned to Seo Jun. Hearing this, the hamster, Iona, was absolutely shocked. She couldn't believe Theo had risked everything just to save some pocket change. But before Iona could dwell on it, Theo quickly changed the topic, sugarcoating his reasoning by explaining that Oren's escape had to be paid for in full. That's why the coins mattered so much. Suddenly, a devilish grin spread across Theo's face as he remembered something important. Oren was rich, thanks to his dad. The mansion of Israel was rumored to hold treasures, including rare items like the potion of contract nullification. Theo, in his sly and cunning way, suggested raiding the mansion's treasure vault. To him, it was the perfect punishment for Oren's sins. Surprisingly, even Iona chuckled and agreed with his wicked plan, her laugh making the idea feel oddly justified. While both Oren and Israel sat paralyzed, tears streaming down their faces, they were informed of this penalty. And just like that, the scene shifted. Inside Israel's mansion, everyone had already made their way into the treasure vault. Theo, like the natural leader he was, started barking orders at the wolf chief, commanding him to gather all the treasure. Theo's plan was simple: haul everything to the merchant village and become insanely rich. Iona, meanwhile, was awestruck. The library was massive and filled with ancient magical tomes, some so rare that even she, as the head of the Wizard Association, had only heard whispers about them. While she marveled, Israel slowly approached her, clearly embarrassed. He admitted that he had a quirky habit of collecting ancient books. Then, almost as if apologizing for his son's mistakes, he generously offered Iona the opportunity to take as many books as she liked. It was an offer too good to refuse. Iona's inner nerd kicked into overdrive as she started flipping through tomes like a kid in a candy store. Titles like The Sipping Bird Collection and the first edition of Magic Essentials caught her eye. She happily grabbed as many books as her little arms could carry, leaving Israel heartbroken as he watched his precious collection vanish before his eyes. Meanwhile, Theo casually wandered around the vault and grabbed a jewel that looked pricey. And as usual, his incredible luck ensured he'd chosen something far more valuable than it appeared. But before Theo could admire his find, Hegel approached him. Without warning, the massive black wolf dropped to his knees and slammed the ground in front of Theo. The scene was dramatic. Hegel begged Theo to let the Black Wolf tribe pledge their loyalty to him and the legendary Black Dragon. For a moment, even Theo was completely baffled. This unexpected display of allegiance left the merchant cat utterly speechless. As the scene shifted, we found ourselves inside the tower manager's sanctuary on the 99th floor. The dragon lady, Aileen, was finally awake after her long slumber. Stretching and smiling, she felt refreshed and revitalized. With her usual routine, she summoned her crystal ball, ready to take a peek at her crush, Seo Jun. But before she could catch a glimpse, a flood of notifications interrupted her. Frustrated, she realized that her extended nap had caused a backlog of work. Grumbling like anyone clearing out a packed email inbox, she quickly deleted all the red alerts. Once the mess was cleaned up, she eagerly opened her crystal ball again. This time, the Dragonheart's power expanded the orb's view. The screen was larger and she could now see a much wider area. But try as she might, she couldn't spot Seo Jun anywhere. Determined, Aileen began navigating through the view. Her attention fell on Theo's home, where she noticed the baby bear training with a wooden club. She couldn't help but find the little bear insanely cute. However, her curiosity piqued when she realized the club wasn't ordinary. A notification popped up in front of the bear, explaining that the club was a branch of a corrupted entity that had absorbed the aura of the blue moon. Shocked, Aileen couldn't believe the creatures of the 99th floor had dealt with something so dangerous. But the baby bear, unfazed, continued explaining that they had fought off the monsters with the help of a statue gifted by the dragon lady herself. He even mentioned meeting Aileen's grandfather and father, who had used a cool air beam to decimate the monsters in seconds. Hearing about her grandfather, Aileen lit up like a child on Christmas morning. She started jumping with excitement, her happiness contagious. Meanwhile, the scene shifts, and we see Hegel still bowing his head, repeatedly requesting Theo to take him as a subordinate. He kept saying the same thing over and over again. He wanted to serve Theo, to follow every single order, no matter what. On the other hand, Theo stood there shocked, his mouth hung wide open. He just couldn't wrap his head around why Hegel, this massive wolf warrior, was suddenly begging to become his subordinate. Theo paused, frozen in his spot, unsure how to respond. Then Hegel began to explain, his voice filled with reverence and emotion. He wanted to join Theo because, a long time ago, the Black Wolf warrior clan worshipped the Great Black Dragon. Their entire race had one mission, to meet the Great Black Dragon even just once. As Hegel continued his story, both the Silver Wolf Chief and Theo listened intently. Hegel explained further that the goal of his entire race was to get closer to the Great Black Dragon. And since Theo was already a subordinate of the dragon, if Hegel became Theo's subordinate, he'd be one step closer to fulfilling his race's greatest honor. Hegel bowed his head even lower, his forehead almost touching Theo's feet. In a polite but desperate tone, he begged Theo to accept him as his follower. Theo, however, was visibly upset, beads of sweat rolling down his face. He was sweating profusely, his mind racing to figure out how to respond. Finally, an idea clicked in Theo's mind, and a smirking smile spread across his face. He crossed his arms and stood there silently, letting the tension build. Then, after what felt like an eternity, Theo spoke. He flat out refused Hegel's request. The words hit Hegel like a slap across the face. His mouth dropped open in complete disbelief. He couldn't understand why Theo didn't want him. Hegel, stunned, asked Theo why he disliked him. After all, he hadn't done anything to offend the cat merchant. Turning his back, Theo mischievously explained. He reminded Hegel of his past actions, how Hegel had been a subordinate of Iona, but had the audacity to plan against her, which made her furious. Theo told Hegel that if he could betray Iona, what was stopping him from doing the same to Theo in the future? A subordinate like Hegel, in Theo's eyes, was nothing but trouble. Hearing this, Hegel was visibly distressed. He tried to defend himself, insisting it was all a misunderstanding, an accident. But Theo wasn't having it. Then Hegel brought up a comparison. "You took Oren as your subordinate," he said. "Everyone knows Oren's a troublemaker. He's not even strong, but you still accepted him." Theo, with a sly grin, responded that while Oren wasn't powerful, his father was rich, and that meant Oren was valuable. "Money talks," Theo added with a shrug. Hegel, trying to regain footing, pointed out that his strength as a black warrior wolf could offer more than just Oren's connections. But Theo turned to the Silver Wolf Chief, telling him he already had a loyal and powerful mercenary on his side. "I have everything I need," Theo declared, confidently dismissing Hegel. Theo started walking away, but Hegel, desperate, stopped him. Bowing even lower, Hegel pleaded for another chance, promising he could prove his worth. Theo, visibly frustrated, sighed deeply. Turning back, he finally offered Hegel a deal. He told Hegel he'd be staying in the area for the next 2-3 days. If, during that time, Hegel could prove himself by being a good employee and finding something that truly impressed Theo, then maybe, just maybe, he'd reconsider. To sweeten the deal, Theo added with a devilish grin, "I have a thing for unique items. Bring me something that catches my eye, and your chances will increase." Hearing this, Hegel's face lit up. He burst into joyful laughter, his heart practically exploding with happiness. With renewed hope, he bowed once more, thanking Theo profusely. "I won't disappoint you," Hegel declared with absolute determination. The scene shifted. Now Seojun was sitting inside his cave, staring at the seed from the tree of the corrupted entity. Seojun could feel a faint, negative energy emanating from it. He remembered what Aileen's grandfather had said. Consuming the seed would increase his strength, but Seojun had a gnawing doubt. What if eating it gave him a massive stomachache instead? The scene shifted again. Seojun brought the corrupted entity's seed to Flame. He showed it to her, asking if she could detect any dark or harmful energy from it. Flame carefully inspected the seed, observing it for several moments. Finally, she responded, confirming that the seed contained an immensely dark and negative energy. For humans, Flame said, this energy could be dangerous. Seojun's doubts were right. The seed wasn't safe to consume as it was. Thinking quickly, Seojun asked if Flame's purification skill could cleanse the seed of its dark energy. Flame wasn't sure, but agreed to give it a try, excited at the chance to help. With great enthusiasm, Flame instructed Seojun to place the seed on the floor. She promised to use her purification skill on the corrupted entity's seed. Soon, Seojun prepared a bucket with onion leaves, placed a cushion on top, and carefully set the seed in the middle. Placing the setup in front of Flame, he asked, "Will this work?" Flame reassured him, saying, "This is more than enough." Then the purification began. As Flame worked her magic, a dark, negative aura started evaporating from the seed. The system notified Seojun. Purification started, 1% complete. Both Seojun and Flame watched in anticipation as the seed's dark energy slowly faded. Flame, now overjoyed, exclaimed, "It's working!" Seojun smiled, realizing that, step by step, they were purifying the seed. Meanwhile, Flame felt a sense of pride. Her skill was finally being used for something truly meaningful. After that, Seojun turned to Flame and asked her how much time it would take to purify the entire corrupted entity's seed. Flame, in her gentle and determined tone, explained that it would take at least 10 hours of continuous effort to completely purify the seed. She assured Seojun that she would keep working on it non-stop until the task was done. Hearing this, Seojun felt a mix of relief and gratitude. Walking over to Flame, he gently patted her glowing branches, reassuring her that she didn't need to push herself so hard. Seojun suggested that she could take her time, purify the seed at her own pace, and hand it over whenever it was ready. Flame, touched by his kindness, felt a sense of warmth and secretly decided to work even harder, aiming to finish the purification well before the 10-hour mark. Just then, a system notification appeared for Seojun, signaling the reopening of the seed store. Realizing it had been a full month since the last opening, Seojun's eyes lit up with excitement. He hadn't even noticed how quickly time had passed and was eager to explore the new offerings. The system highlighted that 4 new seed options were available for purchase with no restrictions on quantity. Seojun opened the seed store and the following options appeared before him. Black bean seeds, 50 seeds for 5 tower coins. Moo seeds, 100 seeds for 1 tower coin. Pumpkin seeds, 257 seeds for 5 tower coins. Onion seeds. Price unspecified. Seojun studied the options and was shocked by the inflated prices. Sitting down with a sigh, he reflected on how the cost of seeds had skyrocketed compared to the previous month. The prices were nearly 10 times higher than before. He realized that the more frequently he used the seed store, the higher the costs seemed to climb. Seojun thought back to the days when 100 seeds could be purchased for just 0.1 tower coins. Now even a small quantity required a hefty 5 tower coins. This price hike left him frustrated and perplexed. Gray Rabbit, noticing Seojun's reaction, joined in, suspecting the cause of the inflation. Gray Rabbit speculated that greed, known for manipulating markets, must be behind this. Citing the Red Locust incident, Gray Rabbit explained how food shortages had given greed the opportunity to hoard resources and inflate prices. The rabbit shared how greed had pulled similar schemes during the Tower War, purchasing food and seeds in bulk and then selling them at exorbitant rates. Now, with inflation affecting even the 99th floor, it was clear that greed's reach had grown. Seojun listened carefully, realizing the dire implications of greed's actions. Gray Rabbit expressed concerns that if greed continued to dominate the market, the entire tower's economy could collapse. and greed would gain unprecedented power. Despite the gravity of the situation, Seo-jun recognized the urgency of the moment. The seed store was only open for a limited time each month, and he needed to act quickly. Even if prices were high, missing this opportunity wasn't an option. He resolved to teach greed a lesson later, but decided to focus on purchasing seeds now. Seo-jun carefully reviewed his options. He decided against purchasing black bean seeds, moo seeds, or pumpkin seeds since they weren't in high demand and wouldn't yield significant returns. Instead, he chose onion seeds, valuing their versatility in eliminating fishy odors, enhancing flavors, and serving as a standalone dish. With his decision made, Seo-jun purchased 500 onion seeds for 5 tower coin. The system recorded the transaction, acknowledging the bulk purchase. Seo-jun received the seeds, feeling a mix of satisfaction and determination. Although the prices were high, he believed he had made the best choice under the circumstances. As the seed store closed, Seo-jun noted that it would reopen in a month. Holding the onion seeds in his hands, he resolved to plant them immediately and take the next step in his journey. After seeing this, Seo-jun becomes happy and starts laughing. The joy in his eyes reflects his excitement as he shares the news with Flame. Seo-jun tells Flame that he has selected onion seeds because he can make delicious dishes with them. Hearing this, Flame, in her usual cheerful tone, remarks that although she cannot eat vegetables, hearing Seo-jun talk about them makes her feel as if she's hungry and wants to eat. Seo-jun, with a soft smile, replies that he also wishes Flame could get a physical body someday. He imagines that when that happens, she'll be able to eat the dishes he prepares, and in return, he'll enjoy the oranges Flame produces. This heartfelt exchange between Seo-jun and Flame fills the air with warmth and camaraderie. But before they could continue their conversation, a system notification interrupts them. This time, it's Aileen. The moment Aileen connects, she sounds excited and immediately starts asking Seo-jun questions. She eagerly mentions that she heard Seo-jun talk to Kaiser, her grandfather, and her father. Seo-jun, trying to keep up with her energy, begins narrating the whole story. Aileen, clearly overjoyed, exclaims that her grandfather and father spoke to Seo-jun through the same statue gifted to him by the Great Black Dragon. However, before Seo-jun could delve further into the details, Aileen interrupts with even more excitement. She demands that Seo-jun visit the statue immediately. Seo-jun tries to explain that he doesn't know where the statue is because the last time, Kaiser had killed all the corrupted entities and flown away, breaking his connection with the statue. But before Seo-jun could finish, a voice echoes from the cave hole, someone calling out to Seo-jun. Looking up, Seo-jun is surprised to realize that it's none other than Kaiser, Aileen's grandfather. Hearing the name Kaiser, Aileen becomes overjoyed. She urges Seo-jun to climb up immediately. However, Seo-jun, being his cautious self, starts climbing up slowly. Frustrated by his pace, Aileen shouts from behind, nagging him to hurry. "Run faster, Seo-jun!" she screams. Seo-jun sighs but starts climbing faster. As Seo-jun reaches the top, he finally meets Kaiser. The two greet each other warmly, exchanging respectful bows, but just as they begin to speak, a flood of system notifications fills Seo-jun's vision. Aileen, now fully connected, starts shouting through the notifications, bombarding her grandfather with rapid-fire questions. She asks things like, "Where have you been? Why didn't you come to see me? Why did you leave without saying anything?" The sheer volume of notifications overwhelms Seo-jun. His vision gets blocked, and he begins to lose his balance. Despite his attempts to steady himself, the constant barrage of Aileen's words causes him to slip. Realizing he's about to fall, Seo-jun shouts loudly, "I'm falling!" But just in the nick of time, Kaiser reaches out and grabs Seo-jun by the legs, preventing him from plummeting. Seo-jun is left hanging upside down, his heart racing from the near-death experience. Below, Aileen becomes upset and apologizes, asking if Seo-jun is okay. Kaiser, pulling Seo-jun up carefully, also checks if Seo-jun is hurt. Seo-jun reassures them both, saying he's fine but slightly shaken. Once safely on the ledge, Kaiser turns to Seo-jun and asks if it was Aileen who had been shouting through the system notification. Seo-jun, slightly annoyed but still composed, scolds Aileen, asking why she was using his system notifications to talk to her grandfather when she could have done so directly. Aileen sheepishly explains that there's a bug in her administrator settings which prevents her from communicating properly. Seo-jun, now more relaxed but still catching his breath, decides to let it go. The air is filled with a mix of tension and relief as the scene ends, leaving everyone to ponder their next steps. Aileen is struggling to control the tower properly due to a system error, and because Kaiser, Aileen's grandfather, is not physically present on the 99th floor. He's only able to communicate through a statue. This limitation means Aileen cannot talk to her grandfather directly through system notifications. As soon as Kaiser realizes that Aileen is behind the system notification, he becomes emotional. Grabbing Seojun with both hands, Kaiser, with tears streaming down his face, squeezes Seojun tightly while crying. He starts pouring his heart out to Aileen. Kaiser asks if Aileen knows how worried he has been and how much he has wanted to talk to his beloved granddaughter. Kaiser continues asking about Aileen's health, her heart, and whether she has been doing okay. But in his overwhelming emotions, Kaiser fails to notice how tightly he's squeezing Seojun. Seojun tries to explain, "You're hurting me," but Kaiser doesn't seem to hear him. Meanwhile, Kaiser rubs his stone-cold cheeks against Seojun's softer ones, saying how much he has missed Aileen and how he longs to meet her. On the other hand, Seojun grows annoyed, wincing as he tries to explain that the rough stone texture of the statue is practically peeling his cheeks off. But the reunion between Kaiser and Aileen continues, leaving Seojun in this awkward predicament. Kaiser hugs Seojun for what feels like an eternity while talking to Aileen. This goes on for a whole half hour. Down below, husband rabbit and wife rabbit are watching this bizarre scene, confused and wondering what Kaiser is doing with Seojun's body. Seojun's grunts and weird sounds add to their confusion. Finally, the scene shifts. Kaiser has calmed down and now sits across from Seojun. Meanwhile, on the other side of the statue, it's revealed that Aileen's father, Anton, is also present. Anton, known for his polite and composed nature, begins explaining everything to Seojun. He clarifies that neither he nor Kaiser is physically present, and that they can only communicate through the statue. Anton further explains that Aileen can see and hear them through system notifications, but due to an error in the tower system, she cannot reply directly. Seojun sighs, remarking how complicated this situation is, but ultimately accepts that whenever Kaiser and Anton want to talk to Aileen, it's Seojun's body that ends up suffering the most. Aileen then begins sharing her problems with Kaiser. She explains how a system error has prevented her from opening the gate to her grandfather's 100th floor. Initially, Aileen thought she was too weak to open the gate, but Anton and Kaiser assure her that it's due to the tower's malfunction. Anton explains that this system error can be fixed, but it will require a very high magic power. If they collect enough of it, they can hack the system administrator and open the gate to the 100th floor. Anton assures them that step by step, this problem can be solved. Hearing this, Seojun asks how he can help. Anton takes a moment to think and then says the first step is to assess the 99th floor. He asks Aileen if she has noticed anything wrong with the system administrator or any oddities in the tower's operations. Aileen, not fully understanding, asks Anton how she's supposed to recognize these issues. Anton explains that red system notifications, warnings, or alarms are clear indicators of a problem. By reading and analyzing these notifications, Anton can work on solving the issues one by one. But in classic Aileen fashion, she casually mentions that she deleted all the system notifications earlier. She shrugs it off, saying she won't be able to retrieve them now. Hearing this, Seojun and Anton freeze in shock, their mouths hanging open. They sit there for a moment, stunned by Aileen's dumb-headedness, trying to process how she could do something so careless. Seojun mutters to himself, wondering what their next move should be, while Anton rubs his temples in frustration. And with that, the episode ends. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, what are you waiting for? We're so close to hitting 3 locked subscribers. Your likes and subscriptions keep this series alive. Oh, and a lot of you guys were asking if the Tower Farmer is going to end. So no, the Tower Farmer season hasn't ended. There's still a lot more to come. With over 500 chapters in the novel, we're far from done. So don't worry, the good news is we've got plenty more adventures to share. See you all in the next video. Goodbye!